Welcome to The Worthy Woman, a podcast for the intuitive, ambitious woman who's ready to regulate her nervous system, reconnect with her body, and rise to the next level of success, health, and purpose. I'm your host, Jo, manual osteopath, holistic coach, and nervous system guide, here to walk with you as you heal from the inside out and create a life and a business that actually feels good. On this podcast, we explore the connection between your body, emotions, subconscious patterns, and your ability to lead, create, and live from your worth. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to the Worthy Woman podcast. My name is Johanna. For those of you who are old friends, welcome back. For those of you who are new here, welcome. I hope you guys are doing well. It has been an interesting, I feel like, couple days, let alone a few weeks. I don't know how you guys have been feeling. September, I think, is going to be a little crazy. So hold on to your seats, as I said to my friends. I actually did a whole, I actually got on Substack. So side note, I did a whole blog kind of post on there talking about the September energies. And I'm really actually excited about my Substack because I feel like it's going to be a really good space for me to just share everything that I do, all the things that I'm interested in. And so if you're interested in all the things that I'm interested in when it comes to energy and pulling cards and business and alignment and just trying to continually grow and be the best people that we can be, that is going to be a great space for you. I'm going to be sharing a combination of like energy updates, my own personal stories, my own personal things, as well as like things around health. I'm actually going to be doing a post in September here around the lymphatic system. So I'm going to get into like the nervous system, the lymphatic system, like, you know, emotions and energies and organs. And I'm going to talk about all kinds of shit. And as well, it's also going to be a place where my podcast can also be hosted. So the cool part is that if you subscribe to me subscribe to my channel, we'll say, on Substack, I don't know what it's called in that sense, if it's called a channel, but if you subscribe, you will get these updates through your email, and or even the app if you choose to have the app, but you'll get them right into your email. You can literally read them in your email. So definitely check out my Substack because there's going to be lots of cool things. It's totally free for you to subscribe and join. There's no cost or anything at this point. So it's just a really great way to kind of stay up with me, especially when I'm not always on Instagram, which I have been a little less on these days. Just because I've been trying to, again, recalibrate, reorient. I've been talking about this in previous episodes of just how I've been in this very reflective space. And yeah, Substack I think is going to be a really great addition. I've been trying to minimize how much I'm doing, but I feel like Substack's going to be this like communal space where I can kind of put everything. And I'm really excited to grow it, build it with aligned people who are totally on the same page as me and who believe in the same things I do, you know what I mean, really value things. And so, yeah, I'm excited to do that. So yeah, the first post is up on Substack, which is about the September energies. And then any of these podcast episodes will be uploaded there too. So you'll actually get those in your email as well. So today's episode is going to be talking a little bit more specifically around business burnout symptoms that you should not ignore. So we oftentimes think the things that we feel, the things that we do are like kind of normal. Like it's just like, oh, it's just like the way it has to be or the way that it is. And I think as business owners, because we're very motivated people, we have these dreams, we have these visions, we have goals, you know, we have sometimes deadlines, timelines, things like that we are striving towards. It can be really easy for us to ignore these things because we think, oh, that's just like the way it's supposed to be, the way that it is, or there's no other way to do it kind of thing, right? And there might be some really quiet symptoms or signs that like you're entering into this burnout phase. And that if you ignore them, then you're really going to be affecting your health, your creativity, business growth, consistency, right? And this is something that I have definitely like found in my own personal life, is that when I hit this burnout space, like my capacity to just do anything in my business, like it slowly starts to decrease. And then I just get to this point where I'm like, I don't want to do anything. And so, when we can become a little bit more aware of these subtle symptoms that people often ignore, it can actually help you like, okay, let me deal with this in the moment so that I can continue on. So it helps you create a little bit more of that consistency when we can kind of, we'll say, re-regulate ourselves, reorient ourselves a little bit, right? Typically what burnout is that it's really just this space where we've hit mental, physical, emotional exhaustion from this work that we've been doing, work stress. Sometimes it's just even the pressure to show up. I found in my life, it's not so much that like my job is, we'll say, stressful. However, a lot of people lean on me for their health, and I deal with people's emotions and problems. You know, it's not uncommon for me to be in a clinic space and have someone crying, or have someone like going through something that's really tough, right? Or having these conversations. And you know, I find I very much pick up on people's energies. And so for me, I feel very drained, you know, kind of emotionally and mentally more than I am maybe physically, because it's not like I have a physically demanding job. And so, you know, we can think like, oh, I'm like, why am I just so lazy? Why am I just, you know, because it's like I don't have to actually physically work hard. So like, why do I feel this way, right? And when I don't pay attention to my emotions or my mental load, or just the capacity of like all the shit I got on my plate, because I love to learn new things and try new things, like hence me even adding Substack. And I'm like, okay, can we keep up with this? Like, am I just adding more to my plate that like I don't need to be doing, right? But we're going to try it. We're going to go for it. And so there can be this, like, we struggle sometimes where we're like, okay, am I just tired? Or have I been so busy that I've burned myself out, right? As you pay attention to this a little bit more, you'll start to pick up on the signs of the difference between the two. But that's why I always say, like, that first step of regulating our nervous system, knowing where we're at, is this awareness of how we're showing up and like what's actually coming up for us. And the reality is that burnout is a warning sign for you. It's not a weakness. It's not that you aren't good enough, or that you're not capable, or that you should quit because maybe it's not for you. Burnout is literally this sign that like you maybe aren't doing things the way that you should. Like maybe there's something that needs to be tweaked or changed to support you better, to support your energy, your life better, right? No two businesses look the same, right? Maybe you, it's a warning sign that you just need to slow down, that like you need to create more space for play and rest, or maybe you need to take out a lot of this busy work. Like maybe you're doing a lot of things that you don't really need to be doing, right? I think a lot of us think we got to be on all these platforms, all these, having all these types of offers, and, you know, and I struggle with this too, because I see the benefit in a lot of these different places, but it's really streamlining like what's really truly for me, right? And that's why I'm scaling back how much I'm going to be posting on my Instagram, because I'm like, one, I find I actually get better traction when I post less, which is kind of interesting, but sometimes we just don't need that. Like sometimes we don't need to constantly just be like putting ourselves out there constantly, and like feeling this pressure to show up is not always healthy, right? Depending on, you know, how often we're showing up. So burnout can be a sign. It can be a warning sign, and we can actually prevent ourselves from getting into full-blown burnout if we pay attention to how we're feeling and how we're showing up, and like recognizing those small subtle signs kind of along the way, right? So again, that takes a lot of reflection. It takes a lot of like knowing yourself to know, okay, how do I normally show up when I'm motivated, excited, inspired? And obviously that's not going to be the case all the time, but knowing, okay, when I'm in this like kind of like lower energy, or, you know, I've had a busy week and I just don't have the capacity for this. Okay, how can I show up for myself a little bit more this week so that I don't hit that place of burnout? So let's kind of get into like some symptoms depending on like what area. We'll say symptoms of like the area of the of you. So like physical symptoms, for example, you could feel really tired and like just like low energy, right? So maybe you're just like never inspired, never motivated, just want to be a blob, right? You might also have a lot of hard time like sleeping, or have like almost like insomnia where you're up all night. What I find typically with the fatigue piece and sleep is that some people sleep a lot and they just want to sleep constantly and they still feel tired. And then other people are like the push through people and they're just like, yeah, I don't sleep good, but like I can 5 hours, it's okay. Like I can make it work. And as women, I'm going to be honest, we need more sleep than men do. So if you're getting, I would say under 7 hours of sleep, you are probably cutting yourself short there. But I find with the fatigue and the sleeping, depending on how it shows up, can be a really big sign as to what part of your nervous system is maybe like a little like being more effective, like what state that you're in. So that's a really important thing to kind of like focus on or pay attention to. If you guys are wondering, again, I have my quiz. So if you're wondering what part of your nervous system is affected by like your natural state, like, so there's 4. There's your fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And so I broke it into categories. So you can actually take a quiz and figure out which one is kind of your more dominant one. And then that'll give you an idea of like how you should be kind of like showing up for yourself. So the other things that you can kind of get physical symptom wise is like you get headaches a lot. You might have digestive issues. The digestive issues don't also have to be like anything crazy. It can just be like you literally have like constipation, diarrhea. Like it could just be like I got a lot of bloating and gas. All those things can be because we're experiencing this sense of stress or burnout or just too much going on and we're not listening to ourselves. Chronic tension, people who are tight all the time, I'm telling you, you are like in this hypervigilant stress state. I see it all the time in my clients. If you are just tight especially tight all over, like not just like one area of the body, that can also be a signal. But if you are like your whole body is tight and you're restricted and don't have the mobility and all these types of things, I'm telling you, your nervous system could use a break. The other thing physically that you can have is like you get sick more often. So like you maybe always get colds, or you're always getting like, you just feel a little bit under the weather, or maybe you get a lot of like sinus stuff, or just anything. Like you can pick up all the things that everybody gets, right? That's a good sign that like your nervous system's kind of running crazy and it's affecting your immune system. So that's some of the physical side of things. Now, we can also have emotional and mental symptoms. And so these are kind of some of the things that we more so typically attribute to burnout and stress in our business. But at the same time, like we just think like, oh, it's because I'm tired. And it's like, but the tiredness is coming from the burnout, right? So we have to, again, it's like slowly starting to be able to discern and be aware of how these things are starting to show up. So some of the emotional and mental symptoms are like feeling irritable, impatient, maybe even anxious. Like if you're very reactive to things, almost like you have like a very low tolerance. Your stress is through the roof, which means you're headed right towards burnout. You might just have like a loss of motivation or joy in your work. And I experience this a lot where like when I get burnt out, my creativity goes down the tank. And then my motivation, because I'm just like, I don't feel like I have a direction. I don't feel like I have solidarity. Even if I do, it's like I lose that connection to what it is that I'm doing. And that can definitely be a sign that you're kind of burnt out, or that you just need more space and more time to kind of, just live your life and enjoy your life. I I will say that if you have a loss of motivation or joy in work, like definitely look into things of like playing and doing fun things, or go take that art class you wanted to take, or go hang out with friends, or do something kind of fun that can kind of boost your energy a little bit more. Now you might also have like difficulty like concentrating, brain fog. People talk a lot about indecisiveness. And again, all of this is because you're probably linking it to like, oh, I'm just tired, or I don't know, when it comes to indecisive, like I can't make a decision right now. I'm so tired. That's your nervous system, like totally, totally in burnout mode. And I'm sure some of you could even, like, if you think back to like when you were a kid, like you can probably see where your parents were in this space. I know this is like something that I commonly see within people in my life, like when they have kids, because kids are obviously very demanding, right? And they need a lot because, we're literally there to be their parents and to help lead them and guide them through life, right? But when we're already tired from our job, or we're already tired from our life, whatever's kind of going on, or our business, or we're working all the time, our kids needing us can be a little bit even more of a trigger for us. And then we just feel like we can't, right? And then that's like the irritability, the impatience, like all those things kind of start to come out in those relationships, because that's the people who you're at home with, right? And then I kind of already talked about this with the loss of motivation, but like feeling detached or disconnected from like your business, your clients, what you do, how you're showing up, what's your purpose, like all of those little things where you're like, what am I doing? Like why am I doing this? What is my message? What is whatever, right? And so those are some mental and emotional ways that burnout can start to show up. So if we can, again, start to be aware of these things, we can, be like, okay, I need to show up for myself a little bit more here. Now, we can also have what's called like behavioral or productivity symptoms. So we can have things like procrastination or avoidance. I am like the queen of procrastination, I always used to say. As I noticed it a lot more when I was in school. Oh my gosh, like I was like, I'm going to tell you this right now. And for those of you who are listening to this, if you ever went to school with me, I don't say this to brag, but I luckily I picked a topic that I really knew, but so I had basically a year to write my thesis. Now the thesis was modified for my osteo. This is for my osteo practice. It was modified because it was through COVID times, and so we couldn't practice on people, and whatever. There was a whole thing about it. So it ended up basically just being like a big paper. I had a year basically to do it, probably just over a year. And I didn't start even writing it until like I had to do my there's deadlines before for like the I forget what it was called, but the prep piece for them to like be like, yep, okay, you can do this topic, blah 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 blah. So I already had to make it like a mini paper, and then a year later I had to have the full-blown paper done. And I didn't even start writing it until it was due like September, 12th or something like that, and I literally didn't start writing it until like mid to late August, and I wrote it in like 5 days. And I passed, and it was wonderful. But like I am that person where I get more done in a weird way when I procrastinate, because then it's like the crunch is on. But I also procrastinate, and I had a full mental breakdown before I like went into this, because then I was like, oh my God, I didn't leave myself enough time. Like, how am I going to do this, right? And so I think it was just like that pressure. I don't even know what it was with school. I think it's just school has that vibe, that energy. If you've been to school for a long time, it's like you kind of sit there and you're like, what the hell are we doing here? This is taking me forever. But like for reference, I was in school till I was 29. So it was a long time. And I didn't have any gaps in there. I literally went to school that entire time. But that procrastination and avoidance is more of this like the freeze response, not wanting, like just I can't do it. I can't even take the action to go do it. Once I sat down and started doing it and forced myself to do it, I was fine. But just the sitting down to have that intention was so hard, and I would get so anxious and kind of like pent up, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this, right? So procrastination can be a big one. The other, on the flip side of that, is like overworking and skipping breaks. So these are the people who work through lunch. don't take a dinner, right? Take their work home with them, work on the weekends. I can be bad for the overworking as well at times. And that's usually how I kind of run into this burnout, because I feel this pressure of like, oh, I have all these things I have to get done and I don't have enough time, right? Neglecting personal care or self-care routines. So if we're like, oh, I can't eat good, or I can't, do my morning meditation because I just don't have time, and there's other things that I have to put ahead of that, we start to fall into problems and burnout and things like that. And again, that's just us not showing up for ourselves, right? And putting ourselves on the back burner and our business before ourselves, right? It's also how you end up with like poor boundaries in business and stuff as well. Essentially, that's what burnout is. It's poor boundaries with yourself and sometimes other people. And then we have, like, you could feel like I am stuck, frustrated, like nothing's ever enough, like there's always more to do on the to-do list, and you're just like in this like overwhelmed but frustrated space, and just like not feeling like there's an answer to what the problem is, right? And then there's some more subtle signs that you might be ignoring as well. Things like feeling guilty when you're resting or taking time off or going on a vacation and not responding to things, not working, right? You might also feel like your perfectionism is like really ramping up, like nothing's ever perfect to put out there, to like put out, to motivate, like to I can't start that project because of this, or I can't do that because of this. All of that is like very perfectionistic, like it's not the perfect situation, and so that can make us feel like it's just not good enough, and I can't do that, right? And so it holds us back. And then, like I had mentioned before, is like that loss of creativity and that inspiration. That's typically what people will find, especially near the ends of it, because you're just like, so like I don't have nothing. I can't. What am I going to do a podcast episode on? What am I going to do this content? How am I going to make this like Instagram story? Or just like, I don't know what to do in this situation, like loss of creativity when it comes to your, like the actions that you're taking or the steps that you're taking, right? Or like, I don't know how to pivot around this problem because I don't have any creativity or inspiration to help kind of move me and be like, oh, well, like, what about this and this and this, right? So our creativity can show up in a lot of different ways, especially depending on your business. And so like burnout, when we ignore it, can be quite dangerous to our business, right? And it can be quite dangerous to just even to ourselves and our own sense of health and, physical illness and mental health struggles, and even just building this slow resentment towards your business, right? It can stunt your business growth because it's like your energy, your focus, and your creativity are just all compromised, and you're not functioning as a whole human, right? You're functioning as this like malnourished person in your business, and that's not going to get you very far, right? You might not actually be malnourished from a nutritional perspective, but from an energetic perspective you are, right? Things that we can start to do to prevent and avoid and address the burnout, like I had said, like that awareness is huge, right? Having that like, okay, how am I feeling when the burnout even happens? What has been leading up to that point to get you to that place, right? How have you been acting? How have you been showing up? How are you feeling? And sometimes I've noticed for myself, because like I said, I am a burnout person. I have definitely been in that space multiple times, but sometimes you're like, the thoughts and the things going on in your head, you're like, I am losing my goddamn mind. Like, those things are not things to be worried about. Those things are not, like, when you can really kind of take a step back from it, those things are not as big as maybe you think they are, right? It's just this stress and this overwhelm. So tune into your emotions and your body to help you recognize earlier signs before you get to that point. But sometimes you got to work your way back at first so that the next time you end up in that pattern, you can start to see it a little bit more. Implementing micro breaks and self-care routines. So small ones, start very, very small. Maybe it's like a notification on your phone, like a reminder that comes up that says like, hey, take 2 deep breaths, like just something to kind of like, I even tell clients like, set a reminder to, tap into your body. It's like, okay, where are my shoulders? Am I clenching my jaw? Am I clenching any parts of my body? Can I let them go? Right? notice how your body is showing up, but start very small, because when we start small, it's easier to stick to and it's not as overwhelming. And setting things like little routines or little reminders or alarms can be helpful, because then we don't forget about it, right? It's something that like kind of is in our face and reminds us. So that can be a really good way to kind of start implementing some of that awareness piece. Delegating or outsourcing any sort of tasks, or again, not doing any more of the busy work, the stuff that doesn't really need to be done. Like really focus on like what is a priority, what needs to get done today, and what can maybe wait. Help yourself reduce that sense of overwhelm. And again, give it to other people if you can, right? Or just put it on the to-do list for tomorrow or a week from now or whenever, right? Sometimes we think we feel like we have to get all these things done because we want to. But at the reality of a lot of times, it's like it doesn't have a hard, firm deadline, you know? You can really kind of do it whenever you want. Resetting your boundaries. So again, with like work hours, client expectations. So you might have to reaffirm some sort of boundaries, whether they're with yourself or other people in your life. You might also have to reaffirm your work hours in the sense of like, okay, I don't work past 5, or I always have Sundays off, or I always take a lunch break, right? Whatever you need to start fueling yourself and nourishing yourself to support yourself, set those boundaries and stick to them. You have to honor those. And if you have bad boundaries and poor boundaries with your clients, or even like people you work with or family or whoever, you gotta like lay those out, be clear, be upfront about them. And the other thing would be consider support, right? Coaching, therapy, or community support for accountability and perspective. Like I have my coaching program, Elevate Her. I also have a small community called the Soulful Circle that has a bunch of tools in there. You guys can, again, follow me on Instagram, my Substack, things like that to help you create that sense of community and get like support through people, right? I actually just, so I've been working on my physical health, and so I've been trying to lose some weight and get back into like fitness and strength training and all these types of things. And it's a process, and I'm like so far removed from those things that it feels overwhelming to kind of bring them back into my life. And I was like, I need accountability. I need a person who can help me, guide me. It's not that I don't really know what to do, but I need that moral support. I need that person I can lean on that can be that anchor for me. And I actually invested in a coach that helps me with nutritional stuff. She doesn't really make me any programs, like in a sense of she, gives me my macros and those sorts of things, but it's more of like, okay, do you have any like events coming up this week that are like going to be hard for you to stick to your goals? And it's just this accountability weekly for me that has been so supportive, that I find is almost like what people need most. It's someone who holds them kind of accountable, and somebody who can also help, talk them off a ledge if they're overreacting on things, or also give solutions to certain things that they're maybe struggling with. And so having a coach, having someone you can lean on is going to be super, super important, whether that's me or that's someone else in your life. So really start to reflect on how burnout is showing up. Maybe some of the things I mentioned, you're like, oh, yep, I see myself doing that all the time. Like, take note of those things, reflect on it. Think about like, okay, how am I really showing up? And maybe if you've been in a season of burnout recently, or you're in one right now, you might be finding that like, okay, yeah, I can see where certain things are coming up, but also pay attention if you're not maybe aware. Obviously, if you're here, you are aware that burnout is a thing. If you guys are unsure of like how burnout could be showing up in your nervous system and what to maybe do, my free nervous system guide for female entrepreneurs it's a quiz, sorry, not a guide. But at the end of the quiz, it tells you, okay, based on this is your outcome, and then like these are the things that you can like watch for, probably the patterns you fall into, and here are some small things that you can do. if you're ready to reclaim your energy, get back to enjoying your business, definitely check out my Elevate Her program. All of that stuff is down in the show notes. So if you're wondering, or if you're curious on those sorts of things, that will be there for you. If you have any questions, feel free to message me on Instagram. It's probably an easy spot. You can always email me, whatever. If you're curious or don't know, what direction to kind of go into, I'm always here for you guys to kind of ask those questions too. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys subscribe, leave a review. I will be back next week for our next podcast episode. And we'll kind of go from there. I haven't decided on the topic yet, so we'll see. But definitely check out Substack. That's where I'll be hanging out quite a bit. And I'll be, like I said, I'll be posting about the lymphatic system and things like that. So there'll be some different kinds of content coming out through there too. So thank you guys for being here, and I will see you guys in the next episode.